The purpose of this video is to talk about benzoylecgonine cases. I'll add the video to the benzoylecgonine page on the website, but if you do have any questions about your case, then please get in touch. All our initial advice is completely free of charge. So first of all, what is benzoylecgonine? Well, benzoylecgonine is cocaine's primary breakdown metabolite. It's what's known as a fingerprint metabolite, which means benzo can't be produced from any other source. If you have benzo in your system, then it almost certainly proves that there was some prior use of cocaine, whether or not you knew that you'd consumed the substance or not. Now, one of the most effective defences for benzoylecgonine is the risk that the benzo level has increased whilst the sample's held in storage. Now, a couple of years back, this defence wouldn't really have applied because when drug driving was first introduced as an offence back on the 2nd of March 2015, blood samples were tested quite quickly, within a matter of days, sometimes a matter of weeks. Nowadays, with the number of drug driving cases that are being dealt with, and there are only a handful of labs that can carry out this sort of casework for the police, you might find that your blood sample is held in police custody for months before it eventually reaches the lab for testing. Why that's really important in a benzoylecgonine case is because benzo reacts very differently to other drugs or other metabolites when it's held in storage. Take, for example, cannabis or THC. The legal limit for cannabis is very low, it's only 2 micrograms per litre. But as a blood sample containing cannabis is held in storage, generally the THC levels will drop because of bacterial action and enzymes in the blood. As the sample deteriorates, the THC concentration will come down. Now, of course, that always favours the suspect in those circumstances. The longer it takes to analyse the blood, the lower the level of THC. It's a good thing for the defendant. Now, benzoylecgonine cases are very different because benzoylecgonine may increase in concentration as the sample is held in storage, and that's because it's a breakdown product of cocaine. It's generally accepted, and the science tells us, that cocaine is quite an unstable drug. It will react to its environment and it will break down over time. That certainly sounds good, that the cocaine level is going to drop, but of course cocaine converts into benzoylecgonine. So if when the sample of blood was taken from you, you had 40 micrograms of benzoylecgonine in your system, then you were below the legal limit of 50. Fast forward 3 months, as your sample's held in storage, the cocaine levels continue to decrease, they can continue to drop. Cocaine, as we know, converts into benzoylecgonine, and that of course then increases the benzoylecgonine levels in the blood. And that can be a really effective defence to use in a courtroom, to say to the court, well, hang on a second, at the time that the sample was taken from me, I wasn't over the legal limit. It's only because of a delay in analysing this blood sample, as it gets held at the police station, that I'm now over the legal limit for benzo. Again, a really effective defence. Now, what the prosecution may say is, well, we had a sodium fluoride preservative, we had an anticoagulant to the blood to make sure that it remains viable for testing and as stable as possible. Well, 2 things. Police laboratories, generally speaking, don't test for the preservative, so they can never say for certain whether or not your sample contained the preservative. Of course, if it didn't, then that conversion between cocaine and benzo is going to be much greater than if it had contained the preservative. So well worth asking the question. And of course, second of all, even with the preservative and the anticoagulant, you can't stop that process. You can only slow it down. But again, in most cases, your sample is going to be held in police custody for a lot longer than it should have been. So as a general rule, you may decide that you don't want to trust the benzoylecgonine levels that the prosecution come back with, and then in fact you want to challenge the accuracy of that result and check whether it accurately reflects the level that you had in your system at the time. Don't worry if you didn't get your own sample tested. It can be expensive to get your own sample tested. You may not have stored it correctly, having left the police station. If you did, you've got the option of getting that sample tested, and certainly we can refer you to labs that can carry out that sort of casework for you. So I really just wanted to give you an idea of that one defence that you can use in benzoylecgonine cases. Of course, it's not the only defence. There are other good defence arguments that we use day to day to challenge and win drug driving cases. If you do have any questions about benzoylecgonine cases, drug driving cases in general, then please get in touch. I mentioned at the start of the video, all our initial advice is always free of charge. You'll find contact details on the website. If you prefer a call back, you can fill out a callback form and I'll be back in touch with you. Thank you.